Listen, there's a lot of news going on in the world, as there always seems to be, but we are going to be starting here with what is top of mind for a lot of people right now, the rash of random acts of violence on transit systems in cities across the country. Now, here in Toronto, police presence has recently been ramped up, specifically on the TTC, but officials are saying no magic answer to deal with the violence that we've been experiencing in this city as of late. A bit of a heavier topic to start, but listen, for anybody who has to take transit, whether you're taking it every day or you take it once in a while because you're coming into the city to come to the social, there's a lot happening. So what do you think is maybe one of the possible solutions to deal with what we're dealing with right now?
Oh, you're asking me. I don't think a comedian on TV has the answers to all these questions. It's part of a larger thing, and I think in the short term, they're adding more police on the streets, and I think in the short term that addresses the hysteria of the fear of going out, but I don't think that addresses the long-term problem we have here, and really what we're seeing is cuts in all these different areas. Education, mental health, healthcare is manifesting itself in this public place. So when you cut in all these different siloed areas, it manifests in a place where everyone gathers, and that is public transit.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Yeah. Just this morning on this subway, this morning getting here, there was a man sleeping across 3 seats. And yeah, you think, okay, so they've introduced more security, more employees to sort of track these things, and you think, well, what will happen to that person? That person will be kicked off of the subway and sent outside. Then where will he go? So the problem keeps perpetuating itself, and it seems like there are so many short-term solutions for something that at its root is very, very complicated. And there was a doctor who specializes in mental health who said, we don't just have cracks in the system right now. People aren't just falling through the cracks. There are caverns, and I thought that really sort of struck me as being completely accurate. And how do you repair those caverns? You know,
it's so complicated.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it is important to remember, because I know I've been feeling kind of panicked every time I turn on the TV, that despite what we're hearing right now, and this is cause for concern, Toronto remains one of the safest cities in the world. So I think that's important to note. But this is not unique to us in Toronto as well. We're seeing problems with public transit everywhere. New York is one of those places where I was wondering, how bad is it there? They also, in tandem with post-COVID, have found a huge problem. So they've also increased police presence. I think they hired an additional at least 1,000 police officers at the end of last year. And the governor and the mayor there are saying that they've seen an improvement. They say there's been a 16% drop. But if you ask other people, they're saying, there hasn't been really a drop in violent crimes. What there has been is more of a, more tickets being issued to, again, things for people who are doing things like fare evasion and like the minor offenses, which disproportionately targets marginalized populations and people of color. And I can't help but think about the story that, of course, everyone else was also talking about this weekend, that of Tyree Nichols in Memphis. And if you haven't been following this story, you should be. And we will talk more about it on this show as well, that the increase of police is not just the answer, in particular for many people of color. And it's a larger conversation, but I just think that you cannot take this with one small answer. And we are always looking for Band-Aid solutions that actually may cause more problems.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, listen, I take the TTC every day, but I'll say something super privileged right now. I'm so scared, I stopped taking it, at least for the next little while. You know why? Because I have, luckily, an alternative. A lot of people don't have the alternative. I've decided to just opt out because I have so much stress riding the subway. And anybody who rides the subway in this city is feeling the stress. I get to work frazzled, which is not good for me. It's not good for anybody. And I'm lucky. I'm one of the lucky ones. I can get out. And I've seen a lot of stuff on the subway. Yeah. And so I was on there last week with my daughter, and we encountered someone who was in crisis. I'm going to tell you something. There were no officers yet. This was before the announcement that they were going to ramp up with officers. And even though it's a very complicated relationship with police officers, as you said, Cynthia, I'll tell you something. Had there been a police officer there, I wouldn't have had the fear coursing through my veins as I had in that split second where I had to think, how am I going to keep me and my daughter safe against someone who's really in crisis? I'm not equipped to handle this.
What if it was a mental health crisis individual who maybe wore some kind of
de-escalate the situation?
like someone in charge of de-escalation?
Well, here's an idea. You brought up New York City. Why don't we bring the Guardian Angels back? Remember them?
No.
Remember them? Okay, y'all are too young. Y'all are too young. In the 70s, the young ones are like, we have no idea what you're talking about, Melissa. The Red Berets, anybody? A few of us know, right? A few, thank you.
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you. A few people, do you remember them?
Yeah, I don't think they're the best thing because, like, the entry into the club was the Red Beret. I don't think that makes you able to, like, de-escalate situations.
They actually trained them.
Oh, they did?
For de-escalation.
Oh, okay.
So here's the thing. We're having a money problem in this city. I know where you're going with this. But this is a nonprofit organization. Do you guys remember in early 2000s, there was a young girl by the name of Jane Kriba, a Boxing Day shooting on Yonge Street. People actually called Guardian Angels and said, can you come to Toronto? They had been here before, but it didn't really work out. The mayor at the time, David Miller, was like, actually, no thanks. Like, actually, no. But people have been saying, we don't have to pay any extra for this. It's volunteerism. They are trained in de-escalation. They carry 0 weapons. And I'm wondering, we have a funding crisis with the TTC, which is not helping the problem. Could that be a stopgap? I don't know.
Interesting.
We just need people who are professionals in not ramping up, but rather ramping down situations.
I think that's what it is. It's like having those professionals.
Yeah.
There are organizations in every city. I used to work at Covenant House Vancouver when I lived in Vancouver. And, one of the departments at Covenant House is outreach. So teams of experts, they are trained professionals. They go out every night and day. It's their job. And they walk the streets. They are on transit. And they're assisting at-risk youth. And they're helping with food. They're providing, they're providing supplies if they need them. But they're trying to get youth into shelters or in other places of help. And those places are seriously underfunded. They depend on donations. And I wonder if one of the many things that are part of a greater solution is that the transit system work more closely with those agencies in the community, like a Covenant House, where, maybe the outreach routes can be around the transit stations, where then you do have people who are on hand.
And that addresses the
help.
root problems, like partnering with these outreach programs and getting the money to them.
No one agency is going to do this
exactly.
alone, so it has to be some sort of collaboration. And I think you have to look at the nonprofits and the organizations out there who've been handling this problem, not just for the last few months, but for the last few years.
Just to add in there was $4 million in the latest budget for the TTC put towards an organization, including others, the Streets to Home Homes organization. They've got funding for 10 additional workers, which is great.
Yeah.
Is 10 enough?
Right.
No. So I think you're right. We need to do more in that direction for sure.
Hey there, wasn't that great? Do you know where you can find some equally good content? Our YouTube page. It's filled with discussions, debates, and some laughs. Head there now, like and subscribe.